Okay, lesson 4, which has to do with a kind of a strange tom pattern. I could also use it on the cymbal that I did for actually the first lesson that in the series before I found I did a web page and all that stuff. It started with this tom groove that I used I had these lighted drumsticks, and I did this little video with these lighted drumsticks because I thought the students would think they were cool. And anyway, right now I'm going to put the lighted drumstick video on. Ready? Time for the lights to go out. I'm turning into a regular Steven Spielberg with these effects. Maybe not. Okay, so that video that you just saw, my students liked at the time, but I hadn't thought much of it because that was, I think, a year or so ago, maybe more. But I put it on the opening sort of sound to my first video, which most of you probably didn't see because then I edited it again and I just put it on without that. But one of my students saw it and said, I want to know about that tom pattern that you play. And I said, okay. And since I did a video on tom patterns, I thought I would. I thought I would include this. But this is a little more difficult. And to be honest, I didn't even know what this was for a while. It's still kind of a strange pattern to me, and I don't know why it's a strange pattern because it's a one-bar phrase and it just repeats. But it doesn't sound like a one-bar phrase. And I have a little bit of an inkling that it's actually phrased in 5. But I don't know, which is unusual because I like to kind of dissect things and figure them out. Anyway, it sounds much stranger than it really is. I will definitely have the PDF up for you on this one. This is called the Strange Tom Pattern Variation. So it starts with, as you just saw, with the colored with the light up drumsticks. It has this pattern that really consists of 3 hits with your right hand. Okay. And it kind of does that. Well, let's just start with beat 1. Beat 1 is going to be 1 E and okay, that's beat 1. And if you download the sheet, it would be easier to follow along. But beat 1 is 1 E and 1 E and 1 E and 1 E and this hand 1 E and 1 E and that's beat 1. Beat 2 is pretty much the same thing. 2 E and 2 E and 1 E and okay? That's all it is. Two beats, done. Third beat, it changes a little. So the third beat, we play again with our right hand, and then we play a snare next. So we play 1 E and 1 E and So this is beat 3. Sorry, I always say 1, even though it's beat 3. So 3, technically. 3 E and 3 E and then the funny thing that happens is because you broke up beat 3 with just one note, with 3 E, then that 3 pattern starts again. This is the part that makes it sound weird, even though it's not. That 3 pattern starts again on the and of 3. And it goes over the beat into beat 4. That sounds too complicated than it really is. So forget about what I just said. But beat 3 is 1 E and 1 E and 1, 3 E and 3 E and For all you purists out there, I don't want you to think that was beat 1. That's really beat 3. Because if you remember, if you rewind the tape, which I could do a quick rewind. But I'm not that much of a Spielberg yet. So beat 1 again, just to recap, beat 1, 1 E and beat 2, 2 E and then beat 3, 3 E and And then beat 4 is just 4 E and A. So sticking pattern again. 1 E and A, 2 E and A, 3 E and A, 4 E and A. That's it. That's the pattern that you just saw with the lighted sticks. And then it repeats. 1 E and A, 2 E and A, 3 E and A, 4 E and A, 1. I think I was messing around with, even though this doesn't sound like that groove, this is always why I tell students they should play around and think about ideas while they're practicing, right? And expand them out. I think I was messing around with that groove for Hot for Teacher, I think, which is kind of a tough groove. I think it's like, and I was probably doing some threes or something like that. I don't remember. I don't really remember how this beat come up, but I think I had something to do with that Hot for Teacher groove. And then I was just playing with the right hand doing threes. And anyway, this came out of it. And I think there's also a double bass thing that might have came out of it. But that's the pattern. That's it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it down into just right hand and left hand, and then I'm going to play it a couple different ways, and that's it. If you like it, great. If you don't, great. It's kind of a weird pattern, but it is a tom pattern, which is how I use it most of the time. I've never used it in a song. I've never used it outside of that lighted stick video, which is weird because I used it for that, and I don't even know why. But it's kind of a cool rhythm, and I don't really... I'm not sure why, to be honest. But those things, you come up with things when you're just sort of trying to do different things. And I was definitely trying to do something different that day with these threes. Okay, so what we're going to do is first I'm just going to play it. And I have no bass drum pattern, but we do have 3 bass drum patterns that we're going to use. We're going to do quarter note bass drum, we're going to do 8th note bass drum, and we're going to do 16th note bass drum with double bass. And I think this pattern sounds best around 120 beats a minute, but of course you wouldn't start it that way. You would bring it up, starting maybe at 80. And I'm going to attach the Groove Scribe sample, which has the quarter note bass drum pattern, and then you could bring that up to different tempos and see which one sounds best. So check out the Groove Scribe sample to hear it be played, and then obviously print out the PDF and follow along. Okay, so this is basically the pattern. That's it. Move it around the toms a little. Maybe the ride cymbal. Add in the bass drum. Quarter note bass drum. Same thing on the toms. Eighth note bass drum. Hi-hat with that. Hi-hat was on the quarter notes. And then you could do the 16th note bass drum, the double bass drum, or I use double bass. I guess most people would when they're doing 16th notes. And you could do that one on the cymbal or the floor toms, floor tom or any of the toms. Let's see. So that was going to go, if I could do this, how do I do it? So, I think it's got to be a little faster when you play it with the double bass. those are if you like the pattern, those are a few ways to play it. Now I'm going to isolate each hand. So now I'm going to play just the right hand. I'm going to play my left hand here because I can't really play it, to be honest. I don't think by itself. I need to play the pattern together. So see, I have my own independence problems. Practice, practice, practice. So I'm going to play the right hand up here so you can hear it isolated. That's it. That's all the right hand's doing. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1. That's the right hand pattern. Now the left hand pattern. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E, 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1. All together. That's it. You can play it maybe like an intro to something. I don't know. I don't know. I just put it up here because I got a request. So I like to do the student requests if at all possible. So there you go. There's a floor tom kind of pattern slash cymbal pattern. It's a little more complicated than certainly than the tom patterns I put on before. So this one would be a challenge, I would think, for most students. But it does have a cool sound to it. I can't say that I've ever used it anywhere, but I do like it. I use it like for warm-ups and stuff. And I think I do this double bass thing with the right hand as I was trying to figure out where I came up with it. I think it's just a double bass and threes, like... something like that, and I think I came up with the pattern. Something like that. So that's why you got to mess around with ideas. When you get an idea, you got to kind of expand on it, do some different things, and you'll come up with ideas. It's kind of the flow technique that I always talk about. We're kind of flowing around, and then you hear something that you play, and then you stop, and you're like, what was that? And then you sort of try to recapture that, whatever you just played. And that was the idea with that. I'm pretty sure. Again, it probably started with some double bass thing. I think it had something to do with that Hot for Teacher rhythm, although it doesn't sound anything like the Hot for Teacher rhythm, but that's the point. Sometimes you just come up with ideas from another pattern that you're working on or whatever, and that's the pattern that ends up sticking. I mean, I don't play Hot for Teacher very often either, but that pattern I probably play more often just because it's kind of a warm-up, and it does work out your right hand with these threes. And like I said, I think maybe you can see this as a grouping of 5, although I'm not sure. But anyway, maybe not. I haven't investigated it that much, but it's an interesting pattern. Hope you like it. That's the scoop. I don't know. We'll do another one on something as soon as a student talks to me and says, hey, what about this? And I'll say, hey, that's a good idea. And then next thing you know, you'll get a video, and I'll start it off with saying, I was talking to a student today, and he mentioned this, and next thing you know, there's the next video. So, anyway, that's about it. I don't have anything else. I'm trying to think of a cool, fancy, flashy ending. I don't have a cool, flashy, fancy ending. So, I'm just going to end it with that lighted solo from the beginning that you heard, because that's about as cool and about as flashy as I can come up with. So there's the scoop. Have a good rest. It's a weekend, so you should be practicing anyway. You don't even have time to watch this video because you're practicing at least, 4, 5, 6 hours a day, working on different sticking ideas, working on linear grooves, working on just all kinds of things. So, at like 9, 10 o'clock tonight, when you get done practicing and you got your towel and you're wiping the sweat off, then you put on this video and you relax to it. It's really a relaxation tool, I think. One last thing, I almost forgot. The beauty of electric drums, if there is a beauty, is you have these different settings. So I have this rock stage setting. Wait a minute, let me turn my volume down. I have this rock stage setting, and this rock stage setting works out very nicely for this pattern. A lot of reverb. Wait a minute, what did I do with the volume? So I'm going to play the groove one more time, just because I like this rock stage setting. Here we go. Thank you, Wembley! Sounds like you were at Wembley, doesn't it? Do you know where Wembley is? Probably not. Google it.